Hello Internet, it's Grid Zeta here, aka Zeta, formerly known as Skyhound 008, coming to you with supposedly the final in-depth analysis part 3 of this graphic novel sequel to Power Rangers Time Force. If you guys have not seen the previous two, I will leave the link in the description below. That being said, I've said it once, I'll say it again, there will be spoilers. So if you do not want to be spoiled, go to your local comic book shop or bookshop and get the damn graphic novel and read for yourselves. If you still want to stick around, that's your choice. Don't say I didn't warn you. Now, quick recap. In part 2, I did mention about the reveal of Time Force Black's identity and the fact that I knew that she was female. So, that being said, to give a faster recap here, we find out Time Force Black is Syra, sister of the late fiancé Alex, who belonged to Jen at first, and the future self of Wes, played by Jason Font. So the two Rangers hash it out, Jen being the more rational leader of Time Force, manages to reconcile with Syra, telling her that whatever she went through, both know that the Alex that they know would have been proud of them both in terms of their accomplishments. And I apologize in advance, guys, but as I'm trying to explain and open this damn graphic novel, it is not an easy thing to do. So, that being said, as I mentioned in part 2, Black falsely accuses Jen of something she didn't do, and both of them kind of go through a bit of a time slip of sorts. Time breaks up all around them. Jen has to point this out to Black, and then we figure out who the identity is, which I said about maybe a minute ago. So, we get a bit of a rehash of episode 1. Jen apologizes for what happened, but despite what Syra went through, despite how tragic it is, Jen tries to reconcile with her. Nadira finds out that the morpher Syra is using was done by Louis Ferrex, aka Frax, who fans would likely say is the real villain of Time Force and not Rancic, which from this fan's perspective is a fair assessment. Now, despite what they figure out, they give an interesting background in terms of who Dr. Ferrex was, what he tried to do before he became known as Frax. In this case, from this fan's perspective, I would say that Dr. Ferrex is the Frankenstein of the Ranger verse. So despite what they know, Jen comes across her former captain, saying that she did, mess things up a bit over at the headquarters. Despite that, Nadira had to do what she had to, knock him out, and then has to call her father. And as you can see here, reference to Hyperforce, this alpha is referred to as Alpha 55. You see here, Rancic is a director, saying that the call is an emergency, and in typical Time Force fashion, you can sort of see what's going on in terms of piecing things together. But since her dad is not used to technology, I can sort of relate here to reality. Parents and technology, as Hyperforce Nadira points out, they don't go well. And a little bit of a jab here as to what Nadira has to point out to her dad what he needs to look for. Of course, Rancic kind of gets pissed off, saying, "Why the hell do you have to bring up that bastard again?" Excuse me for my language, but I just kind of rambling off here a bit. Jen kind of has to also force her own hand, explain the situation, and Rancic has to point out that the file that they're looking for regarding the black site is just the classification, and he gives the girls the real classification of the place. All directors know of its existence, and Rancic kind of goes into a little bit of an explanation as to how Time Force actually became what it is. They needed a testing site, and the only place they could do that is through a spot between space and time, the in-between, if you will. The only way the girls could get there is through a ship, and upon arrival, it does kind of harken to something that some fans would probably say is akin to The Wizard of Oz in terms of the rough drawing, as you can see on this page. So yeah, the girls arrive. They come across these distorted failures, and once inside, here's where things get really interesting. It gives a quick explanation as to what Ferrex had done here at this place, and dare I say, major spoilers here, guys. So if you do not want to deal with it right now, pause it, go buy the book, read it, do whatever. If you're still here, glad you are. That being said, here are some interesting tidbits. It gives an explanation about what Ferrex was doing. Certain failures didn't go through, so he tried using the armor of what would eventually become the Cyclobots. And one interesting tidbit here, you can see, he mentions about a young man from Eltar. And then he mentions the designation, Z. Yes, if fans have put this together already, you'd be like, okay, how in the world does this connect? All I can say, the flow of this story, if you've been with me so far, if you can sort of see, it does feel a bit rushed. The conclusions feel a little distorted. But despite having some Power Ranger references here, as you can sort of see, it would appear that this explanation, if you will, is a half-rushed attempt at trying to put things together. That being said, hope you guys enjoyed this part 1, I guess I would say, of Act 3 of this comic. Feel free to hit the like button and share it online. But that being said, I'm getting close to the end here and hope you guys are enjoying it. Grid Zeta signing off for now, and may the power protect you.